First thing we'll mention, and we won't spend a lot of time on this because we've already talked about some of these issues, the demographics of the 21st century Ozarks, as you can imagine, are much different than the demographics, say, a century ago when the 20th century was still in its infancy. We've had lots of changes. Some of these have happened just within the last generation. Some of them have been ongoing since the post-World War II era. And one of the major demographic changes or effects of the post-World War II era has been the in-migration of retirees into the Ozarks. The Ozarks has become a very popular destination for retirees. For what reasons do you think?
Low cost of living.
That's probably number one. Taxes. Low taxes, cheap cost of living. Yeah, you can just get by on less in general. And there's a lot of stuff to do, a lot of outdoor things. Yeah, but the retirees have been coming in, as I said, since really the post-World War II era. The 1950s and 60s usher in an age, and I believe we've talked a little bit about this before, usher in an age when, for the first time in American history, lower middle class people, even working class people, are able to retire, and many of them move south. You have the beginnings of the Sun Belt as people leave the Rust Belt and head south. So you not only have cheaper living conditions, but in some ways warmer living conditions. And there are any number of advantages that you could say the Ozarks has over lots of other places. But we know there are entire retirement communities in the Ozarks. We've talked about some of those. We've talked about Bella Vista Village just last time. Its beginnings as a resort town. Since the 1960s, Bella Vista Village has been the Ozarks' largest retirement community. Most of the people who moved to Bella Vista Village down in northwest Arkansas are retirees. And there are retirement communities in many of the pure retirement communities seem to be down in the Arkansas Ozarks. Cherokee Village is one of the bigger ones. We had, earlier in the semester, we had a student from Cherokee Village. Fairfield Bay, there are several of them that have those sort of subdivision-y type names. A lot of them are located on lakes, or in the case of Cherokee Village, they built a couple little lakes to go inside their village, and they advertised to people kind of from St. Louis on north, especially in the upper Midwest retirees, and other places as well. So retirees have managed to change demographics. And one of the things that retirees do is they bring, for instance, their religious beliefs with them. And in some of these communities, you've got churches that spring up that cater to retirees that you would never have seen in these rural Ozarks communities before. I know in a place like Cherokee Village down in Sharp County, Arkansas, there was never a Catholic church in that county until Cherokee Village came in. All of a sudden you got a Catholic church, you've got a Lutheran church. There was never one there before. And so you have demographic changes even in terms of religious institutions. You've got golf courses that tend to come with them. That's sort of a prerequisite for a retirement community, have at least one golf course. We know that we've already talked about, when we talked about our section on diversity in the Ozarks, the last generation has produced maybe the most unexpected demographic change in the Ozarks, and that has been the influx of Hispanic immigrants, Mexican Americans, even some Mexicans, and Guatemalans, various people of Hispanic heritage who've come into the Ozarks, and we saw that those tend to be clustered around the processing plants in the poultry industry. And we'll see a map a little bit later on in this class of where the poultry industry is prominent in the Ozarks today. And it's no surprise that those same areas, those same counties tend to be the counties with large Hispanic populations, southwest Missouri, northwest Arkansas. So that has been, that's an ongoing change in the Ozarks. The Boomtowners, and here this is not really a specific group. What I'm referring to here is especially a place like Springfield in southwest Missouri and a place like the Fayetteville, Springdale, Rogers, Bentonville area, northwest Arkansas, these kind of boomtown areas where they've had prosperity, they've had business growth, and you've had people attracted to the Ozarks by corporations, whether it's Bass Pro Shops or Walmart or Tyson or whatever it is, people who come into the area to work, young, educated people, and you get this kind of boomtown effect in some places, and which makes the Ozarks much like other parts of the country that are prospering and are bringing in new people. So you get yet another mix to the Ozarks. Of course, one of the concerns, even in a place like Springfield and Bentonville and Fayetteville, one of the concerns today is that that brain drain still goes on, that a lot of the most talented, most promising youngsters from the area still get educated and then immediately leave, and many of them don't come back. So even in these places that by Ozark standards qualify as boomtowns, as prosperous places, that can still be a concern, losing people. But a lot of new people continue to come in to the region, and that's especially true in a place like Bentonville, Arkansas, where just having Walmart there brings hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of people from all over the world and all over the United States to businesses. Walmart is such a behemoth in the retail world that Walmart can say, okay, you companies, if you want to work with us, vendors, if you want us to sell your goods, put your goods on our shelves, you need to come to Bentonville and sell us on your products. And so all these companies from around the world set up offices in Bentonville, Arkansas, so that they can be right there where Walmart's headquarters is and deal with them. And so you get people coming from all over the place to work for those companies. One of the more colorful groups of the last couple generations, the Backtothelanders, the Ozarks, being primarily a rural place, and again, a relatively inexpensive place when compared with a lot of other places, has attracted significant numbers of Backtothelanders, counterculture types. This was especially true back in the 70s. That was kind of the heyday of the Back to the Land movement in the Ozarks. There were even a few communes that were established in the region. Usually they were short-lived, but there are still lots of people today. If you go traipsing around in the backcountry in the Ozarks, you'll find lots of people who are now middle-aged, especially baby boomer age people, who first came to the region maybe as many as 40 years ago as back to the land people. And while many of them left, many of them stayed as well and have made lives for themselves here in the Ozarks. So that's another one of our groups. In some places, especially like the Harrison, Arkansas area, you've had other groups that aren't always as welcomed when they come to the Ozarks. Groups like white supremacists, groups that are sort of your paranoid groups, maybe militant type groups who are getting back in the backcountry somewhere and bunkering themselves in to wait for the end of time or Armageddon or whatever they're waiting on. And you get different groups like that. For one reason and another, the Harrison, Arkansas area in the last 30 years seems to have attracted, a few of those types of organizations. I think the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan may be headquartered down there somewhere, and so you've even got, and I think part of the allure of the Ozarks for these groups is the perceived lily whiteness of the region. And certainly if you look at demographics of the Ozarks, as we've seen, especially since the early 1900s, after there were those episodes that ran many black people out of the region has been as white as any place in America, pretty much, up until the last generation when the Hispanic in-migration started, and that's changed things a little bit. But I think that's probably part of the draw for some of these kinds of groups, is they were coming to a place that was all white, and to them seemed like it would be a welcoming place. I'm not sure, but and then you have again, and these are relatively small groups of people, and they don't necessarily live in communes or anything like that. But there are a good number of people in the rural Ozarks today who are very strong property rights advocates. I'm a property rights advocate myself, but I'm talking in sort of militant terms, kind of angry property rights advocates, and so even kind of anti-government bunker type people. You don't usually see those kinds of people around Springfield or a university campus, but you go to the right functions out in the rural Ozarks, and you'll find some of these types of folks.